Sensei John Gallagher here at my home dojo. It's an additional podcast for Lao, and we're going to go into a little bit of my martial art background today. I started in 1966 in New York City at the Martin Depot Center in the Astoria housing projects, and I started in a style called USA Goju. At that time it was Goju-Ryu. We were still under the Japanese Goju-Kai, and the representative from Japan was Peter Urban, the founder of USA Goju. Urban was in the Navy, and he was stationed on Okinawa, and through Dr. Richard Kim, a Shorin-Ryu master, he was introduced to Gogen Yamaguchi and then Mas Oriyama. And they were the founders of his karate background. They helped build his karate background. When he got out of the Navy and came back to the United States in 1959, he opened his first dojo in Union City, New Jersey. And my instructor, I have two instructors, Sekri Shah from New York City and Rado Skarika from New York City. Sekri Shah was an amateur fighter, an amateur boxer in the 56. He qualified for the 56 Olympics. And Rado Skarika was a professional heavyweight fighter from New York City, who was also a longshoreman. And Rado is a colorful character. He was not enamored with martial arts. So when Urban first opened his school and started to get some notoriety, Skarika and some friends went to New Jersey and challenged Peter Urban to a fight. Urban accepted the fight, and the historic fight took place in Kearny, New Jersey on a football field, and it lasted approximately an hour. Urban and Rado went at it. They did damage to each other, broken ribs, knocked out teeth, but they became lifelong friends, and Rado became an instructor for Peter Urban, and I met with Rado in the early 60s. I started with Shah in 66. Within that same year, maybe a couple of months later, maybe into 1967 early, I started with Rado Skarika, and I continued with Rado and Shah until Rado died in 1995. And I hooked back up with Shah in 2002 through my security office in New York City on Madison Avenue. Through the years, I've attained rank 5th Dan, 6th Dan, 8th Dan. And in January of 2020, to honor Rado Skarika, who I believe, and many in martial arts believe, was the father of U.S. kickboxing because of his love for boxing, and he continued training fighters up until the day he died. Vito Antifermo, Willie Mack, John Smith, these were all fighters of the 70s and 80s. Vito Antifermo went on to become the undisputed middleweight championship holder of the world. Rado loved boxing. That was his first love. And he incorporated boxing into martial arts, the Goju martial art, in the early 1960s, 62, 61, in that time frame. So I started a style called USA Goju Kempo in January of 2020 in Ray's honor. He stayed in the shadows. He didn't care about publicity, but his story had to be told. And hopefully soon, there's a Spanish writer who's going to do a book on USA kickboxing. He wrote a book on kickboxing in Japan and kickboxing in Europe. And the next project is a kickboxing in the United States. And I'm assisting with the background on Rado Skarika. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to podcast with Leo Julio Rancier. We have Mr. John Gallagher here with us, a master in the martial arts, a security specialist and professional, a firearms instructor, a Doo Wop. I can't pronounce that. Doo Wop.
Acapella, street corner music.
Doo Wop Singer, and a very successful businessman. Also father, grandfather, and did we talk about Red already?
No, we didn't.
We haven't talked
left
about
him out.
Red.
Yeah.
Oh. And a dog owner. He's the owner of Mr. Red. I'm gonna take a little bit of video of Red later so you guys see this beautiful red bone coonhound. He's beautiful, and we've been working with him a little bit. We've been working his obedience, and he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, he's doing. You started with him about 6 months ago. We took him to Virginia Beach. You brought him out amongst people and other dogs. Leo is a talented canine specialist, and I had brought Red to PetSmart. Nothing against the chain. PetSmart is a fine chain, and the lady, she tried her best. But coonhounds are noted to be thick-headed, stubborn, because they're super intelligent. And I paid for 8 private lessons 3 times. 8, 16, 24 lessons. Over $300 each 8 pack of lessons. And when you took over Red, how much obedience did he have? Probably 0. Well, he could sit. He would sit. He would give you his paw. Mm-hmm. He's a lovable dog. Mm-hmm. But he would not stay. Oh. He would not come on command. He would not lay down. He didn't like to be told to lay down.
And he would, he's stubborn, like you said. He would, when he doesn't like or he didn't like something, he would do it. Yeah. He wouldn't do it,
He gave you a run for your money, I'll tell you that.
Oh my God.
But you have worked in the last 6 months. He has come light years advanced.
And we'll keep working with him, and he'll be a well-behaved dog. He's now a well-behaved dog, but he'll be better. I give you my word, because I can see it. I mean, he has so much potential, and
even though he's a hunting dog, his breed was developed over 150 years to hunt bear, boar, wild boar, raccoons, any large game, of any running game, any large game.
And he's a big dog.
He's a big dog. He's now 100 pounds. His father is 120 pounds. Oh. But he's a big dog. But what I've noticed recently, when he passed a year, he started to get very protective of me, the house, the car, and he's super protective of my young grandkids. He loves Teddy. And God help anybody that tried to do Teddy on him. We had the electric fence put down in my son's farm, and they have experienced dog people, so they say. So the experienced dog handler comes after the electric fence has been put down. We got Toby, which is my son's yellow lab, and Red. They have their collars. They've been trained by my young grandson, Liam, not to go near the flags. We did the tone first, then the shot. So Red and Toby won't even go near the perimeter. They stay clear of the perimeter. They know what the boundaries are. The girl drives in to the driveway, and she gets out of her vehicle before I and Liam get out through the garage. She's now holding her hand like this here, and Red's got her pinned up between the car and the driveway. She tried to pet him, and he bit her.
Obviously, it's a normal behavior in that situation of a dog.
Yeah, he don't know who she is. She had never met him before. Definitely. So I questioned her. I says, why did you, number one, get out of the car before we came out? She says, oh, but I met Toby before. I said, what does that mean? Toby's a younger dog. He's 6 months younger than Red. Yeah. When Red was a pup, he was fine. He's now becoming territorial because he's an adult.
Definitely, yeah.
You should have waited for me to come out. So once I come out and I tell Red, calm down, I tell him to sit and stay, and he does. I pet him and I tell him, this is our friend. Now he's fine. So she was able to work with him for an hour after that. But she was bit nevertheless.
Well, people that work with dogs and like myself, it's like a normal thing for us to get beaten. I must have been beaten probably more than 15 times. Definitely. More than probably 20 times. Yeah? I mean, there were bites that were more serious than others. There were just, bites that actually I could put some alcohol or some peroxide and then clean myself, and others that I had to go to the hospital and actually see even a plastic surgeon. So it's something that we're used to, but nevertheless, we never get used to. You know what I mean? Like we don't like to get bitten. It's a problem every time we get bitten.
Yeah, but see, you've talked to me about this already. Her mistake, I believe, was you don't just walk up. I mean, you don't come onto a property where you've been called to come in by a client and say the dogs are out. You wouldn't just get out of your car and walk up to the dog cold, would you?
I would read the dog, and with my experience and knowledge, I would probably, depending on the energy of the dog and how he's acting, then I would also react, whether to stay still and wait for his owner to call the dog, or try to maybe, be able to open my arms, my hands, so he can smell me. He can come to me and smell me, not me going.
So you would never go towards the dog?
Well, I wouldn't say never.
But not usually.
But not usually.
Sure.
I wait for them to come to me so they start feeling more comfortable.
Sure.
When I go and I invade their space, then a lot of them, and they, especially if they don't know me, they feel uncomfortable. And that's when they react.
Now, his bite was a superficial wound. I sometimes get more blood when I shave. But luckily for her, it was that. But he didn't do it he did it more out of fear, I think, than to attack.
It was nothing.
Right.
I mean, that was a scratch.
Right, exactly.
But the best thing in regards to security would be to tell the dog's owner to control the dog while I'm coming out of the car, or maybe put the dog in a confined or controlled area while I come out, and then I do my assessment and I start connecting with the dog and the environment. So if I feel comfortable, then I tell the person to let the dog out, or with my leash, then I give my leash to the owner. Then I tell him, just connect the dog to the leash and then give me the leash. Yeah, when I have the leash connected to the dog, then I can just handle the dog, and that dog I'll be able to control. It's very important though that we make sure that their collars are tight enough so they don't slip out.
That you taught me.
Yes.
I always had the collars too big.
Yes.
And he'd get out all the time.
So equipment and knowing how to use them is really important when handling dogs. But guys, we're here with Mr. Gallagher, and he's gonna show us about gun manipulation. I'm very excited about this. I did want to ask John a favor, and he said that it was fine if he could show us here while we're sitting in this beautiful room some firearm manipulation, since he's a firearm instructor. I wanted him to talk a little bit about his firearm knowledge here and what he can actually say and give us advice about firearms usage, especially now with the war in Russia, in Ukraine, with Russia, and so many crimes out there being committed, and people using firearms, and people wanting to buy firearms and wanting to actually learn how to use firearms to protect themselves and their loved ones. So, John, what can you tell us about firearms usage? For me, this topic is very interesting, and asking you is great because this is your specialty. Not only martial arts and karate, and John punches really hard, let me tell you. I know. And but this is your specialty, guns, firearms. What can you tell us about that?
You're right. You're absolutely right. This time in history, it's been unprecedented over the last. I'm going to say the last 4 years. It's been unprecedented. The sale of firearms has gone through the roof in the United States, and with that, the request for training. People want to be trained. The National Rifle Association, another organization I've been a member of since I'm 18 years old. I'm a life member. I'm also a firearms instructor, civilian, rifle, pistol, shotgun, home firearms responsibility instructor, and I'm also a police instructor, handgun and shotgun through the NRA. And I've been a police instructor since 1975 and have kept those credentials current every 3 years.
Wow.
I renew.
Wow.
I also renew my civilian credentials every 2 years. Rifle, pistol, shotgun, and home firearms responsibility. So with that, after the break, I'll bring in 2 of the firearms that I carry regularly, and I'll go over some of the safety procedures, and I'll help dispel a myth that has permeated in the firearms industry and in the world here for many, many years. The accidental shooting while cleaning your firearm. Totally impossible thing to do. There are no alibis in firearm safety. If you make a mistake with the firearm, it's not the gun's fault, it's yours. There are certain safety features that you have to adhere to every single time you pick up a firearm, even when you know it's your firearm. Like the 2 I'm going to bring in are going to be empty. I know they're empty because I unloaded both of them. But every time I pick up a gun, every time I hand it to somebody, I open the cylinder, look in the barrel, or look in the cylinder on the revolver. I transition the slide and look and make sure that the magazine is out on a semi-automatic. And I do this multiple times while I'm talking, even teaching a class. People think I'm crazy. Well, you open that gun 100 times while you're teaching a class. It's just a habit. I know 100% that I'm not going to shoot anybody or myself with this gun while I'm using it in demonstration for demonstrating purposes. So there's no way to shoot yourself with a gun unless you stupidly leave bullets in it. And there isn't no other way to honeycoat it or to sugarcoat it. If you shoot yourself with a gun, it's your fault. You did not adhere to the common safety practices, so simple safety practices that are necessary. If you're going to own a gun, you got to learn how to use it properly.
Definitely.
Okay, now the gun on the round table to my left is the gun I carried the longest. I carried this off duty in New York while I was a law enforcement officer and in private security. I've had this gun over 35 years.
Is this a revolver?
This is a revolver. This is a 38 357 Magnum Smith & Wesson Model 66. Model 66 is stainless. As I pick it up, you notice that the cylinder is open.
Beautiful.
Now, I unloaded this gun probably 8 months ago. It has never been reloaded. It's been in a gun case. But when I took it out of the gun case, what do I do immediately? I open the cylinder.
Just to make
You
sure.
can see that there's no bullets in there. Now, if I'm cleaning a gun, can I clean the gun when it's closed like that? No. You have to open it. So that's myth number 1. Now, if this gun is closed, even though I say it's unloaded, do we know it's unloaded? No. Now we know it's unloaded. When it's open, when the cylinder is open, no other time. And as I said, when I teach a class and I talk about how to hold, how to conceal, when to draw a firearm. That's a very good question. When do you draw a firearm? When my life or the life of a third person is in imminent danger of death, or if I'm at the range and I have a target downrange and I'm going to put a few holes in that target.
So let me ask
That's
you.
the only time I draw a weapon.
So if you have to draw your weapon,
You have to know.
In
You
this
have to
case-
know in advance when you can and can't draw.
In this case, a firearm. We're talking about a firearm.
That's correct.
And you have to use this firearm against a threat, a human threat in this case, not an
Right.
animal threat. Will you shoot, if you have to shoot, to kill, or could you consider shooting not to kill, just to stop this threat?
Myth number 2. When you shoot a revolver, this is not a rifle. How big is that barrel?
Not that big.
2.5 inches. I've qualified with a handgun for over 50 years now. I am an expert marksman. I could not tell you 100% of the time that if I drew this gun, if you were an adversary with a weapon coming towards me, I could try to aim at your leg, but I would be silly to do that because I couldn't for sure say that at 20, 15, 12, 7 feet, I'd be able to hit you in the leg. Why? Because I can't keep this gun 100% steady. Number 2, there's the element of the moment, the duress of the moment. I'm breathing heavily. Maybe I have been running a little bit. You're a moving target now coming at me.
The adrenaline.
The adrenaline. Again, this is not a rifle. I'm not at a tripod with a sandbag bench rest where I could control the breathing and on the exhale, squeeze the trigger and have all the time in the world to place the bullet. This 2-inch barrel is made for combat shooting. So I have to shoot at the largest part of the human body. The center of mass is what we call it in law enforcement. We call it the center of mass, the largest portion of the body. And hopefully I hit you somewhere in the center of mass to eliminate the threat. How do I do that? I don't stop shooting this until there's no ammo left. And if I have to, if you're still moving, I unload, reload, and fire it again until there's no ammo left.
So in the end, you will shoot to.
You have to
kill.
shoot. If I have made the determination that my life or the life of a third person is in imminent danger, and there's no other recourse, I'd be out of my mind to try a Hollywood theatrical thing and shoot the weapon out of your hand like they do in the movies. I mean, that's total nonsense. Totally impractical. And the next thing, when I pull this trigger and that bullet goes out, where does the bullet go? Where does it stop? We're not at the range with a steel backdrop. What if there's people behind you? And I aim at your hand, which is, I don't know, a couple inches wide. What if I miss and kill an innocent person in the back? You can't do that. So if your life or the life of a third person is in imminent danger of death, you shoot for the center of mass to eliminate the threat. There can be no other thought process can enter into it. You only pull the trigger when your life is at stake, and you shoot at the largest portion of the object coming at you.
And that's how you guys train and
Over and over again.
and over again.
That's why I don't use a shoulder holster. I don't put guns in my ankle holster. Now I might carry this. I have a smaller revolver, a 5-shot, where the hammer is it's totally covered. See this, when this goes back, if I had this in my pocket, it could get caught in clothing. So I would, if I shot and something got in between the hammer, it wouldn't go up. So the hammerless could be shot from inside the pocket. So that's another form to carry concealed so that nobody knows you have a weapon. But the threat comes. I'm in a suit. I've worked with the suit all of my adult life. You have to take your jacket back, lift up the shirt, draw, aim, fire, 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 fire. Once the threat is over, the gun goes back. Now, if an adversary was taken down, the police come to the scene. I have to take the gun back out, unload, take the magazine out, any bullets that are in, and hand it to the arresting officer.
Even though you work in...
Even if it's a justified shoot, the gun has to be taken because they do an investigation, a shoot investigation, every single time a gun is fired.
So the other day, I received an email from a friend explaining that there was an accidental gun discharge while this person was...
Again, be careful when you talk to me about accidental discharges. There are no accidents.
So it was maybe negligence?
Negligence on the person who picked up the gun's part. The minute you pick up a gun, you're responsible for that weapon. Nobody else. So every single time I pick this up, I open the cylinder and I keep my fingers through it like this. There is no way that that gun could hurt anybody. It's just a piece of metal and a piece of rubber grip. Can't hurt anybody.
Could there be a mistake maybe? No mistakes.
No,
not
there can't
this,
be. No,
right?
no, there can't be. It's something you did wrong. It's not a mistake. We can't blame the bluebird in the tree. We can't blame Red. We can't blame the third person who came in mysteriously and loaded the gun while I wasn't home. It's nonsense. Every single time you pick up a gun, you make sure it's unloaded. And then there are no accidental discharges.
Where do you keep your guns when you are in your house resting? Or where would you...
This one is loaded and kept in my night table, in the drawer. This one is loaded all the time and kept on top of the night table, right next to my bed.
But what would you tell our friends and followers
With children.
that watch our videos and hear our podcast, if they have children, if they have
children, I'll take you into the bedroom when the podcast is over, and I'll show you the box that I have mounted on the wall. Now, we kept the key. My wife and I each had a key on our night tables. The box had a loaded lock semi-automatic 9mm in it, but it was locked. And we practiced to see how fast we could open the locked box, which was slow, but it was in a life situation. You may not have time to do that. But that's the chance you take. There's no way to be 100% sure. But with the kids in the house, I have a safe in the garage. I have a gun case in the bedroom. I have a lockbox in the bedroom, and you act accordingly. Now that the kids are all gone and I'm here by myself, being Red, I've got a loaded 12-gauge shotgun in the closet hanging up, loaded .357 Magnum in the nightstand, and on top of the nightstand in the holster is the 9mm semi-automatic.
Same thing with employees, right? When you go to the maid or people in the house, you would advise to keep their guns locked in a safe or something.
Well, no, if you carry a gun, I trust you. I mean, you're not going to take the gun out in my house. You're going to keep it on your person.
But for our followers and people that are watching our videos,
right,
and they have employees, mates in the house, strangers that go to their house.
Right.
Well,
if you had maids, when I have the maids come, I put the guns away.
You put them in a box. Yeah. Yes, definitely. So
I leave nothing to chance. You have to.
Yeah.
That's safety.
What's your favorite gun to use? I know we have here this revolver, but I know you have a that we can't see, right? It's concealed right now, but he has it in there.
I have the Smith & Wesson Shield 9mm. That's a very concealable weapon. I have a .44 Magnum, the big brother to this one, the Model 29 Smith & Wesson. I have cowboy guns. I have the Ruger .357 Magnum with a interchangeable cylinder for a 9mm, and I also have a custom-made 327 Magnum stainless steel with staghorn grips, with which the grips cost more than the gun. I have a pair of staghorn grips that are over 100 years old that I bought online from a collector out west. So this could have been worn by Western guns 100 years ago. One of my favorite.
Do you like Glocks?
I do.
Yeah.
Very reliable gun.
Yeah.
Very reliable. I mean, they're not the prettiest of guns, but they're extremely reliable and they're very affordable. Like the SIG Arms Model 329, the one I have, ridiculously expensive. It's almost $2,000. You could get a good lot for around $600.
In the U.S.
In the U.S., yeah.
Because in the Dominican Republic, it's impossible to get a firearm for that price. Prices there for firearms, if you can buy them, and munitions and all that are very high.
Well, they spike in this country. When there's unrest, when there's political uncertainty, the prices go up because the people get afraid and they start to run on the stores and buy things out. But things stabilize after time, no matter who's in power, and the craze dies down, and then prices drop and things become readily acceptable and accessible again, which is the case right now. We have gun supermarkets here in Virginia. I mean, Cabela's, huge supplies of any kind of firearm you could think of.
This is why I like Virginia. I really like it.
Well, I just got back from Ohio, and I belong to a range in Ohio too, and they had a whole variety of things that you could buy at the range.
Nice.
There was like a gun store at the range, similar to what we have here in this country.
I'm not a firearm guy. I'm more a K9, a knife, and hand-to-hand combat person. But
well, let me stop you. I was involved in a number of arrests where the adversary was armed with a firearm or two firearms, and in both cases, I did not draw my weapon. I took him out.
Definitely.
And my father would go berserk. He'd say to me, "Don't you carry a gun?" And I said, "Yeah, Pop, but I was up close." And if I'm up close, even now, I'm going to be 72 years old, and my legs are gone, my balance is going, but up close,
dangerous.
I'm still formidable.
Dangerous. John, can you show us the 9mm that you have in your hips?
Now again, it's unloaded, but once I take it out, I first remove the magazine, which is also unloaded. I transition the slide to make sure that there's nothing inside, so we know nothing's there.
With the finger.
The finger is always outside the trigger guard. That's the thing I mentioned again before. The only time I draw this weapon loaded and put my finger on the trigger guard is to protect my life or the life of a third person, or to put a hole in a target downrange. At no other time. A 9mm Smith & Wesson Shield. They have a full-size gun, but this is really good to carry if you wear a suit, because it can be put in a holster behind your hip bone, and that's the FBI made a standard many years ago that was the safest place to carry a gun, because number one, if I pull it out and you're close, the gun is still pointed at you. If I cross draw, which used to be the Hollywood would carry a cross draw. If you and I get into a tussle and you get your hand on my gun, where is it pointed?
It's pointed down.
At me.
Or at you.
So that's no good. Now, whenever we practice at the range, most of the time we used to use a rig, a belt rig, a gun belt. So under duress, military and police statistics show that under duress, it's muscle memory. I'm not going to think. I'm going to draw, fire, reload. So where am I going to draw from? All right, this is again, it's unloaded still. I'm drawing from here. Now, what if on duty I wear a rig in uniform. I'm wearing the rig here. Every time I go to the range, 4 times a year, I qualify with the gun here. In the shootout, you running across the parking lot now with a machete in your hand, coming straight at me. And I'm gonna go for my gun. Where am I gonna go? What if it's carried here? I'm dead. I'm machete to death.
You are machete out.
That's it. So I never carry a gun, even when I go to the range, other than when I'm wearing a jacket, in a holster, on my right hip, behind my hip.
Great.
I've never deviated from that ever.
Beautiful. And what would you say to our friends and followers that are watching? Any advice you want to say to them about guns?
If you're going to buy a gun, learn how to use it. Contact the National Rifle Association. They are in every major city. They have unbelievable training programs available right away. There's usually instructors that will come to your house or bring you to a location within a few minutes of your house. I mean, in Culpeper here, there must be 10 instructors within a couple of mile radius. So there's plenty of instruction. A lot of the ranges offer firearms training. Go for training and go often. It doesn't cost that much money to get trained, but it makes a world of difference because as you train, you will do.
Definitely. So this has been really interesting. I've loved it, and we'll keep bringing Mr. Gallagher more and more to the podcast shows and episodes.
Glad to be here with Lau, and hopefully this podcast will spark some interest on some of the ventures that we're endeavoring to get involved in. Thank you.
Thank you. So guys, I'm very excited to be here in the United States next to Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Gallagher is a legend. He is a master of the martial arts, a master and a security specialist, a very successful businessman, and also I don't know how to pronounce this well, but
Be careful.
I'm gonna ask John for help. Doo Wop Singer.
This is sad, ladies and gentlemen. Doo Wop, the greatest music on the face of this earth. Street Corner Symphony, ladies and gentlemen. The harmony of the voice without music in the background. Now we did add music occasionally, but Doo Wop singing started in the streets of the big cities in the United States in the late 1950s, before the British explosion in 1964. New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit, LA. Street corner sound was very, very big, and it continues to be popular to this day. Many of the Doo Wop groups that started in the late 50s, although these guys are in their 70s, close to 80 years old today, the groups are still together. Some of the groups got together and formed additional groups, older groups. I sang with a group in New Jersey, on the New Jersey coast, called Sounds of the Street for many years. Those guys are still active today, doing cruises, Doo Wop cruises, singing in clubs all across the United States. So Doo Wop is a really, really fine music form, and I've been in love with it since I was a really early teenager.
Can you give us an example, John, of maybe how you sing Doo Wop a little bit here?
You throw me for a loop here, Leo. I mean, life is but a dream. Remember that, strange as it may seem. Life is but a dream, sweetheart. And then the backup would come in. There'd be a baritone, a bass, a second tenor, and a first tenor backing up the lead, and we would have a ball. We'd look for an echo. Many times the groups would practice. We'd go into the subway systems in New York City. We'd look for hallways or even laundromats. Anything made of cement where the voice would carry and create an echo is what we were looking for.
Wow. Incredible, unbelievable. And I'm very happy to have you here. John told me before we started, hey Leo, make sure that you pronounce and say your name very slowly, because we can't understand your name when you say it Rapido, which is fast. Le Julio Rancier, So I'm trying to say it slower now.
Poquito inglés.
Poquito español now. John is like a mentor for me. He's more than a friend. He's more than a coach. He's more than a person that I've come to respect a lot and ask for his advice and feel comfortable next to him. He's always shown me his desire to help me, and not only me, but a lot of people out there through all his life. He's helping the security industry in the protection endeavors. John has a big security background, and he's done a lot for this world. Not only the United States, not only Europe, not only the Middle East, is Latin America, but the world. And I'm very happy to have him here with us. I'm very excited and I'm very proud. And I thank you, John.
Thank you, Leo.
For accepting this interview. And we're gonna keep doing this, and we're gonna keep recording and actually having conversations about business, about security, about different things that I think you guys will enjoy a lot. So stay tuned because this is gonna get good. So John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? Why am I so excited and so happy to have you here? Just tell people who you are. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be a blessing moment for all of us here to get to know Mr. John Gallagher. Where were you born? John is from New York, so you guys.
I think that's obvious. I've been in the South now for almost 17 years, but the New Yorkese, my speech pattern, the way I speak, I use my hands a lot. I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. It's never changed. It's never gone away. Now I had an office in Manhattan for many years, until I went partners with Chuck Tobin at Risk. But I think until the day I die, I'm still going to have the New York accent, and I'm going to be a New Yorker. I mean, that's who I am. My name is John Gallagher. I was born in Astoria. That's a section in Queens, New York. I was born on April 17th, 1950. That's a couple of years back. And I grew up on the streets of Astoria, which was at that time a Greek and Italian neighborhood. And a lot of the inner city, there's a lot of inner city movies that came out around that time. The one I like to watch the best, that emulates the Astoria neighborhood, was the Bronx Tale. It was about the Italian neighborhood up in the Bronx, Belmont Avenue, up where one of the great Doo Wop singers, the groups, came from Belmont Avenue up in the Bronx. It was Dion and the Belmonts, and I actually know Dion, and he's a great guy. Lives in Florida. Most New Yorkers are in Florida now. It's funny, but I came to Northern Virginia for business, and I love it here. But growing up in Astoria was a special time. We called it the magical, mystical land, and it was like a Camelot to us. We were in New York City, an inner city neighborhood. We didn't lock our doors. I never had a key to the apartment that my mother and father lived in. There was no reason to lock the door. My father had a car that we used to park on the street. We never locked the car. We never locked the doors. Nobody would touch anything. The neighborhood took care of itself.
Wow.
The older kids in the neighborhood looked up to the older kids, and the older kids took care of us. The social clubs. I'm going to be very careful here. The Italian social clubs that were in the neighborhoods in those days. They took care of things. They took care of the neighborhood. Those days are gone.
And this is in the 1950s.
1950s, early 60s, right. Up until the late 70s, I'm going to say once the 70s came, it started to change. different groups came from other parts of the world, a lot from the Caribbean, South America, and a lot from the Eastern countries, Middle Eastern countries, Asian countries. And the dynamic of New York City changed. But I grew up in a time when the neighborhood that I grew up in was Italian. The majority of it was Italian. Italian, Irish, German, and then Greek.
Interesting. John has so many stories that every time we meet, I just love his stories. He keeps just telling stories and different stories every time. So I'm looking forward to hearing all these stories, John.
Some of them I can't talk about, but that's okay. We'll keep the lighter ones and the ones of relevance to martial arts, the security business, law enforcement. I got involved in law enforcement when I was 22 years old. That shaped who I became.
Because you were also a former bridge, you said, police?
Bridge and Tunnel Officer in New York City. That's under the MTA, Bridge and Tunnel Police. Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority was the old name, and it was changed to the MTA when the MTA was formed. And we were the smallest of the law enforcement agencies in New York City.
How old were you when
22.
You were 22 years old?
And by the time I was 25, because I was an NRA pistol, rifle, and shotgun instructor from the time I was 18 years old,
wow,
I became a police firearms instructor. They sent me to Quantico, Virginia, to the Marine Corps base, and I took a police instructor course, and until the day I retired, I remained one of the firearms instructors for the MTA.
Wow, incredible. So, like we were talking 2 hours ago about John's history and his life, and we were actually organizing how we were going to make this interview, and I was really excited. So John has done so many things in his life that in maybe 10 episodes we wouldn't be able to cover maybe half of it. But we're here, and something very interesting to me is that John told me that he was first weightlifting.
I started weightlifting at an early age because we were all hanging out together. Well, some of the guys that I started hanging out with were still friends today. One of them became a cousin. He married my first cousin Phyllis, and one of my oldest friends, Rick Grasso, is now a family member. But he, myself, Frank Raffini, Sal Buscemi, we started lifting weights when I was 12 years old. And then by the time I was 15, the karate dojo opened up in the Mountain Depot Center in the Astoria Projects, and we all joined the karate school. And then I've never looked back. Sensei Shah is still my instructor today. He's still alive, lives in the Grand Concourse, New York City. I talked to him this morning, and he's alive and well. And I've been with him now 56 years.
So you started lifting weights when you were 12 years old.
Right.
When you were 15 years old, you joined the
Correct.
karate school.
That's correct.
In New York.
In New York.
And when you were 22, you were
I joined the MTA.
A New York bridge
and tunnel officer.
And
Yep.
tunnel officer.
Yep.
So when do you start providing private security services?
I did that right away. Even before I got into law enforcement, as soon as I turned 18, I started working for security agencies in New York. I worked for Burns International, Pinkerton. Those were big agencies in the day. Burns no longer exists. It became part of another company. Pinkerton was bought by Securitas. They're no longer around. Pinkerton's one of the divisions, I believe it's the investigative division, is still around. The security division was taken over by Securitas. But I've been involved in security over 50 years.
Over 50 years of security experience. Wow. I could only imagine how many things you've seen, how many interesting contracts in detail you've been.
Hollywood personalities.
important people you've
Dictators,
protected.
political figures, oh my God, I mean,
Celebrities.
celebrities, and not just 15 minutes, not just one detail. If we, for whatever reason, we were lucky enough, we hooked up with the famous security specialist from California, Gavin DeBecca. He grew up with Carrie Fisher. They went to high school together. He met Liz Taylor when Carrie Fisher and her father moved in with Liz when Eddie Fisher married Elizabeth Taylor. So Gavin got subjected to the high level of Hollywood stardom at an early age while he was in high school. He was also always an organizer, a leader. Elizabeth Taylor was having problems with her security people and her major domo. Carrie jokingly said to her, "You ought to hire my friend. He's the president of the class. He'll be able to put all of your stuff in order." She hires him, and he does an outstanding job. He redesigns her security system, and the rest is history. He wound up with Robert Redford, Cher. He started working for everybody through Elizabeth Taylor.
Wow, and were you there with them?
No, Gavin came to us in the 80s. We were already in Princeton University protecting 2 Middle Eastern princes. And the proctor at Princeton University really liked Fred and I. I was working with Fred Rast, Trey Inc. At that time. I had just retired. I got hurt and I retired on accident disability. And I started working for Fred as a vice president and director of operations. And we hit it off with the proctor out in Princeton University. And he recommended us to Gavin when Brooke Shields became a student. And we took over Brooke Shields for the 4 years that she was in Princeton. We provided security for her.
Oh my God, so this was in the 80s, right?
This was in the 80s.
So imagine after the 80s, 90s, now the 2000s until now, 2022, I mean, how many people, how many celebrities out there, political figures, important people, contracts.
That Middle Eastern family that I started with Fred, we still provide security for them today, 35 years later.
Interesting. So are you still active or you retired?
No, I'm retiring. I'll be officially retired. I think it's going to be the 12th of April this year, 2022. But I'll stick with that Middle Eastern royal family until I die. I promised them that.
And maybe now being a security consultant, or maybe being a martial arts. We have a lot of martial arts projects. We have a lot of martial arts ambitions and ideas that we are actually putting together. And all of these, guys, this is gonna be great. And John he's a master in the martial arts. He's also a master in the firearms manipulation, and we're gonna be doing some firearms and some firearm martial arts moves tomorrow, and we're gonna put it all here in this episode, and you're gonna love it. And I forgot to mention, John is also a father and a grandfather.
I've got 2 sons. One son is just made the colonel list, the full colonel list in the United States Space Force. He's also a PhD. He has a PhD in physics. My young son is a senior cyber security and information specialist at the NSF, the National Science Foundation. And I can't be more proud of them. I have 7 grandkids. Jeffrey has 5, and Brian has 2. And I love each and every one of them.
Wow, congratulations for your
Thank you.
Great family, for your achievements. And the achievement that they've actually accomplished. I mean, this is great. This is fabulous. I admire your family. I admire you, and we all have a lot of respect for them. And I'm pretty sure that you're all doing a great job protecting the world and protecting us down here. For them, or for one of your sons to be in Space Force, which is really interesting to me. That's the future. And
Leo, he's wanted to do. He's never taken a backward step. When he was 8 years old in grammar school, he wrote a paper about being a space scientist, and he never took a backward step.
Wow.
He wound up going to a special high school. He got into Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida. He graduated with a physics degree in an engineering physics degree. Then he went and got a master's degree in physics and then a PhD in physics, all while he was in the Air Force. So he has never taken a backward step. He's now doing what he said what he had dreamed to do. And I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. I've never wanted to do anything else. I've worked with the martial arts, with the security and the law enforcement, and that is exactly what I wanted to do. And I believe that the firearms instruction, the martial arts, the security and engaging in various types of security consultantships over the years, I'm following my quest to do the things that I've always wanted to do.
And this is why I'm so happy and so proud to have you here with us, John.
Well, I'm proud too, because of your martial arts background. We have a similar background. Although I've been around a long time, I'm proud that you have 2 degrees in jiu-jitsu, which is really difficult. Jiu-jitsu is one of the hardest disciplines to achieve belt level in. It's not like karate, taekwondo, or kung fu. It takes many, many years to reach black belt level in jiu-jitsu. Leo has a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Japanese traditional jiu-jitsu. He also has a black belt in judo. He has a black belt in taekwondo. And today, because of me working with him over the last 6 months, I am promoting Leo to 3rd Dan USA Goju Kempo under the USA Goju Council, USA Goju Association, and the Fight School Network, of which I'm a director of. I present this to you. And this is the other black belts on the wall.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So I have a very interesting story about, about this.
He's going to tell you. He's going to tell you.
I have
But
to.
what he's going to tell you is the way the old school instructors used to issue diplomas. This is absolutely true, what he's going to say next.
So yesterday, I asked John, so how are you going to stamp the diploma, right? Because he signed it really well, really pretty, and everything is beautiful. But then, where's the stamp? And he said to me, Leo, do you know how in the old times they stamped diploma? And I was like, oh my God, he's not gonna do it. It can't be possible. With blood, is it? And he said, yes! So we went to look for a knife, and John, in front of me, this was an experience for me. And this is why this diploma is going to be one of the main diplomas that, brought me a great experience. He actually looked for a pin with a very sharp, edge. And then he just pushed his finger against it. Obviously, there's pain involved, which I love, because I could see his face. Ah! And then he, boom, put his finger on the diploma with his blood here. This is a warrior's line.
Us.
Thank you very much.
We are the Peaceful Warriors Black Belt Club. Grandmaster Battle enlisted me a long time ago, and I'm really proud to be standing shoulder to shoulder with him. He's an early USA Goju master who's living in Florida now. I mean, a lot of the Goju guys wound up in Florida for whatever reason, including my cousin Rick. But he also made me a director of the Peaceful Warriors Black Belt organization. I'm proud of that.
Very nice, very nice. So, how many organizations do you belong to?
I belong to the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP. I belong to the Bridge and Tunnel Officers Benevolent Association, which I'm a charter member of. I belong to the ASIS, the security, worldwide security organization in private security. And I belong to the Peaceful Warriors Black Belt Club. I belong to the USA Goju Council, USA Goju Association, and the USA Goju Fight School Network. That's our website.
Interesting. So you can go online, and if you want information or need information about these organizations, or you're interested in joining, you just can go online, look for them, or you can contact us and we'll be happy to assist you. We're trying to grow, we're trying to expose all these organizations out there to the public, because they're great, and we develop a great bond with, not only with the martial arts, but also within the security professionals and the ones that work in the security industry.
Let me just say this, the ASIS is the largest security organization in the world. There's chapters in every major city, and the Washington National Chapter, I was 2 terms Sergeant at Arms Program Chair. I was 2 terms Vice President, and 2 terms Chairman, President of the National Capital Chapter in Washington, D.C.
Oh, interesting. We pronounce it, in Spanish, we pronounce it ASIS, and I've always heard it in English as ACES.
They tried to get away from that. They want everybody to use the 4 letters ASIS. They did that while I was chairman the first time. I believe that was in 2013. They changed it, and they wanted us to, whenever we talked about the brand, they wanted us to say ASIS.
ASIS.
We used to call it ASIS too,
ASIS.
or ASIS. We did the same.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here, for watching us, and we're gonna come back with a lot more stories. So, John, who do you think, or what do you think is gonna happen with the war of Russia and Ukraine?
I never used to get political when I was in business, but now that I'm retiring, I'm starting to really let my thoughts and my ideals and my beliefs come to the forefront. But I gotta be very careful.
This is why I asked. I knew.
I gotta be very careful.
I wanted to ask this question
Because I'll tell you straight up, I think it's a lot of fucking bullshit, and that's who I am. It's obvious now that Russia is not the Soviet Union anymore. They are not as strong. The will of the Ukrainian people to fight is now obvious. Men, women, and children are taking up arms to defend their country. The Ukraine is not a small country. Most people don't realize the vastness of the Ukraine. There's 40 million people there. That's one of the largest countries in Europe. So it may have been a mistake on Mr. Putin's part to invade that country. I believe he's paying a price that he didn't think he would have to pay. And I don't want to get into any more.
And this is sad that collateral damage, and a lot of people now.
Well, you see, but that's always going to happen in war. And what I believe he's doing now is he's doing it on purpose to break the will of the people. I mean, that's a condition, and that's something that you have to be ready to accept in war. War is not glorified, and it's not an honorable thing. There is honor among some soldiers, but not when your leaders are telling you to target civilians to break the will of the people.
Definitely.
It's a sad situation.
And we hope that the Ukrainian people and people are in war and are out there right now just suffering with anything crime related, illnesses, anything, just get better and stay safe and healthy. We're here for you guys, and we're gonna keep talking about security, protection, and also business soon, and martial arts.
And I'll try not to curse too much. You know, it's funny. When I opened my office in Manhattan, my partner put a big fishbowl, a glass fishbowl on my desk. And every time I used the F-bomb, I used to have to put a buck in there, $1. It got to be ridiculous. I mean, I had so much money in there, I just didn't know what to do. So what I did was, after a while, I said, you know what? Take the fish tank away. I buy lunch for everybody every week.
I just love what you said.
I just couldn't help it because I grew up at a time in a place where that was normal. And it was really hard for me when I got into executive protection and working with royalty. Fred used to cringe. He would say, John, be careful when you're in their presence and when they start talking to you because you're going to just drop it. And I said, no, I'll be all right. I never crossed the line. I never crossed the line.
I do love when you say, the fuck!
I can't help myself. And I get really, really hyper and really, really, it looks like I'm getting really, really violent. I'll tell a short story, and this is another good one. When I first opened my office in Manhattan on Madison Avenue, 41st Street, Madison Avenue, we were part of a large corporation. I had a benefactor, somebody who put up the money to run the business. He owned 17 other companies. So the one company was a staffing company run by my partner, the lady partner, and Delos. Delos was a mild-mannered, 6'6", mild-mannered African-American man who I never heard utter a curse word in the 10 years that I was there. So now this is the first week that I ever met Delos. And I get paged, I answer the phone, I dial the phone, it's Dave, Big Dave, who has worked with me and Fred and with that risk for many, many, many years. He's a giant of a man, a bear of a man. One of the sweetest men to walk the face of the earth, but he's a tough guy. Dave was a tough guy. And I'm trying to get him to go over and above what he's already done. He's worked already 12 hours, and I need him now to work another 8, which is, I mean, that's the executive protection. You don't work 9 to 5. And sometimes 20, 24, 30 hours at a stretch. Not uncommon. So I'm on the phone with Dave. He doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to work. And I'm telling him, listen, I got nobody else. He says, well, you come. I said, I'd come if I could. But I'm in New York, you're in Virginia. It'd take me 5-6 hours to get down there. He said, well, I'll wait. I said, no, you don't understand. I got something to do. I got to take the royal mother. I have to take her to dinner, and I'm probably not going to get back until 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So I said, I can't do it. You have to do it. I said, listen, I'm not gonna fucking tell you anymore. I'll come through the phone and I'll stab you in the side of the fucking head with an ice pick. I said, so just do it, will you? And I slammed the phone. Delos comes in. He's like really upset. He comes over to me and he hugs me. He goes, John, are you okay? I says, yeah, I'm okay. He says, oh boy, you almost had a stroke. I said, what are you talking about? I'm already forgot about it. So he says, that big man, that Big Dave is his name, he really upset you, didn't he? I said, Big Dave? I love Big Dave. He says, you were going to stab him in the side of the head with an ice pick. I said, yeah, he got me upset, but in the end, he did what I wanted to do. We're back to normal. I love him. He's like my brother.
That's a big love.
Yes, I love it.
Guys, thank you for being here, and thank you for watching this episode, Podcast with Julio Rancier. Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you, Leah.
Mr. John, is there the ice pick? Is it around here?
No, it's really, really funny. I haven't had an ice pick in many, many years. I used to have one.
Okay.
And I used to carry a roll of dimes too taped up, but I don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay. Thank God. Thank God. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah. Bring you up. Yeah, come on. 특별했던 나를 와바뀌게 한 건 너. 나를 거울 앞에서 세상이게 만들어버린 너. 예전엔 화장도 안 하고 대충 입던 나인데 이젠 어울리는 옷에 관심이 더 생겼어. 너에게 잘 보이려 화장을 하고 뭘 입을까 고민을 하는 나. 예뻐지고 싶어. 너를 처음 본 순간 나만 보게 하고 싶어. 다른 곳은 보지 마. 예뻐지고 싶어. 더 빠져들도록 다른 사람이 오지 못하게 예뻐지고 싶어.
친구들이 나보고 변했다고 말을 하면 나를 비웃고 근데 나도 내가 변할 줄은 몰랐어. 너 때문에 내가 변할 줄은 몰랐어. 예뻐져라 예뻐져. 너만 내게 빠져들 수 있게 예뻐져 예뻐져. 예뻐져라 예뻐져. 그 누구도 다가올 수 없게 예뻐져. Yes,
지금